Welcome to Catholic Answers Live, the program where you participate with your questions about apologetics and evangelization, including the most important theological, spiritual, moral, and social issues facing the world today. Call now with your question for today's guest. Toll free 1-888-31-TRUTH. That's 888-318-7884. Now, from San Diego, Catholic Answers Live.
Hello and welcome to Catholic Answers Live. It's Thursday, and that means open forum here at Catholic Answers Live. If you have a question about the Catholic faith, whether you're Catholic or not, your question is welcome here today. 888-318-7884 is our number. 888-318-7884. Our guest this hour is Jimmy Akin, senior apologist here at Catholic Answers, author of The Fathers Know Best, The Drama of Salvation, A Daily Defense. Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, how you doing?
I am very, very well.
Good.
And are you getting some rest now that you finished your new upcoming book?
Not so much.
No?
No, I've been writing a bunch of little short things and turning them in.
That's the thing about a big project, huh? It's you're just putting off all the little projects.
Or they suddenly descend on you unexpectedly afterwards.
Oh.
Like I had a magazine article to write for Catholic Answers magazine.
Yeah.
It's for our faith and science issue. Mm-hmm. And so Tim Ryland asked me to write an article on faith and science fiction, where I deal with the faith implications of some concepts from science fiction. Also, Todd Aglioloro asked me to write a post for Catholic Answers magazine online, which is up now on an argument about deportations and what the Church teaches about deportations.
Did that go up today, Nat?
Yesterday, I believe.
Oh, I missed it. Okay, I got to read that one.
And I had the National Catholic Register ask me to write a couple of months' worth of Sunday Gospel reflections for them, or Sunday reading reflections for them. So I've been working on those.
How cool, Jimmy.
Yeah.
So you'll be prepared for Mass now for a couple months. You'll have reflected on the Gospels already.
Including this Sunday. This morning I woke up at like 6 a.m. and I checked my email, and I had an email from the editor saying, the person who was going to write one this Sunday couldn't. Could you? So like, yeah, I got an hour. Bang. Okay, here you go.
That's awesome. Well, very, very good. Yeah, and you mentioned Todd. Todd is, Tim, of course, Tim Ryland is the editor of the Catholic Answers magazine. Todd Agliolaro is the head of Catholic Answers Press, and both big, important figures around here. And Jimmy, it looks like the calls are already pouring in, loads of them. Should we just start with our callers?
Let's do.
All right. Nate in Dallas, Texas, listening on Guadalupe Radio. You start us off today. Nate, your question for Jimmy.
Hi, Jimmy. Good afternoon, guys. I was talking with a Catholic friend about deathbed confessions, and we were just wondering if there's ever been a case where someone was so bad, like Caligula from the movie's bad, that tried to sneak in at the last minute with a deathbed confession, and had church ever, or a bishop or a priest ever been known to have said, no, not you, or that'll make us look bad, or you don't mean it, or some type of denial of a deathbed confession.
The only circumstances under which it's legitimate to deny someone confession are, I guess there's two. The first one is to deny someone absolution. The first one is if the confessor determines that the penitent is not really penitent, that they're just faking. But that is a very high burden to overcome. The presumption, and this is going to apply double extra super chocolate special at deathbed time, is that the person is sincere. You would have to have really overpowering evidence that this person is not actually sinful to deny them absolution if they're about to die. The second is situations where the person has committed what's called a reserved offense. This is an offense that where an ordinary priest doesn't have the faculty needed to absolve it. Certain ecclesiastical crimes are you have to go to a higher authority, like the local bishop, let's say, in order to have a particular offense absolved. But the thing is, those also don't apply at deathbed time. So, so the Church is really concerned to make sure that everybody is given the opportunity of being absolved before heading into eternity. And I'm not aware of any cases where this has happened. I would suspect, due to human error, it has happened in church history. But you'd have a really high burden of proof to deny somebody final absolution on grounds of insincerity.
Nate?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. What about, like, say someone's been excommunicated? Can they still, and they're dying?
Yeah,
Can they
absolutely.
okay.
And there are special provisions for remission of penalties in that situation.
Okay.
Because the church really, really wants to help you get right with God before you meet Him face to face.
And you could even receive communion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. I got you.
And you can even, there are even provisions, I mean, you can ask for any priest you want to hear your final confession if you're on your deathbed, and it can even be a priest who's been laicized. So just anybody.
It's like any
who has
any boat in a storm now, right?
We want to give you every possible chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Let's go to Teresa in Columbus, Nebraska, listening on Spirit Catholic Radio. Teresa, your question for Jimmy Akin. Teresa?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I have got a real serious question for you.
Okay.
Are you really conservative, or do you lean more toward the concept of the Basic 50 or the B52? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, as far as I'm aware, the Basic 50 is a program in square dancing confined to the 50 basic moves on the basic list, including Allemande left and circle left and right. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I think you have something else in mind, so why don't you tell me about it?
Yeah. The real question I have is, I do a lot of reading. I've got a whole bunch of encyclicals sitting there. Mm-hmm. Right now I'm trying to get through a book about Chesterton. I've got a book about Frodo sitting there.
Okay. Let's stipulate you've got a big library. How can I help you?
Yeah. And, you look at these and you want to read them. Mm-hmm. And I do a little bit, but it's hard to get motivated. It's hard to sit down. Do you have any suggestions?
For what to read?
Kind of a different question. Just for how to get around to read, or how much to try to read. I mean, I'm sure you read a bunch more than most people do.
Yeah, I think that's fair, partly because of my occupation and just partly because of my interests and the circumstances of my life. Obviously, the amount that's appropriate for an individual to read is going to depend on a variety of different factors, including what else you have going on in your life. If you have, husband or children living at home, you obviously have to devote time to them. That's going to cut down on reading time. But there are often ways that we can find to read in situations that we might not otherwise. One of the things that I do is, and this is, again, going to be impacted by your family living situations, but I frequently listen to audiobooks when I'm in bed. I have an Alexa, and I'll have it read to me at night. I also I have a Kindle that does text-to-speech, and I have it read to me over my car speaker when I'm commuting. So those are ways that I can sneak in some extra reading time. I personally find it a lot easier to read things that are read out loud to me, either in audiobook form or in text-to-speech form. So I tend to go to those, but it really is up to you what works for you in your life. I would just suggest experimenting and looking for different times where you could squeeze in some reading, either in audiobook form or in ebook form, or just in dead tree form, if that's what you prefer.
Teresa, thanks very, very much for that. You're going to need a microphone. Okay. I appreciate that call. I'm saying you're going to need a microphone because our Director of Marketing is here with us, Donna Barrick. And Donna, I wanted to ask you about how's the program going, where we have folks who are in parishes promoting Catholic Answers Live, promoting the work of Catholic Answers. How's that going? And we should probably tell people how they can participate as well.
Oh, thanks, Si. Yeah, it's going really well. So we started with an outreach to our parishes just by, talking on the radio with our listeners and sending out some postcards to parishes. But what we really need our listeners to do is help us reach the people in the pews. And by doing that, we need them to contact us. So they can go to CatholicAnswersLive.com and click on Become a Partner. Or you can send us an email at calpartners@catholic.com, calpartners@catholic.com, so we can send out like a bunch of materials, flyers about the radio show, the types of programs we have, the guests we have, get some window clings for your cars and bumper stickers. And
I love that we have both.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain number of people who just don't want a bumper sticker on their car.
Yeah.
Then you got the window cling. Just stick it in the back window, and people will go, "Catholic Answers Live. What's that? I got to find out more about that."
This is a new noun for me.
What?
Window cling.
Oh, you haven't heard of it?
No.
They're actually really good too. There used to be the window clings. I don't think window cling technology was very advanced for a while. You'd cling them to the window, and about 2 days later, they'd be on the the back seat.
Yeah.
But now they just stay.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I noticed I put one in my car, and I noticed that with the heat, it got like 108 degrees here in El Cajon, and it started to peel a little bit, but you can just stick it back on. Yeah, it was a cool day.
A cool summer day here in El Cajon.
Yeah, and then I doubled down and put one of these on my, first time I've ever done that is I put one on my bumper. I've never done that before, and I thought, I don't want to be a target for like Catholic people that might not like Catholics or something. But
you've been
so far so good. I was a little nervous.
And where there's lots of markets where, for example, someone might know about us, they're listening on the app or something like that. There's not a Catholic radio station there that's easy for people to access. We'd love to have the bumper stickers there.
Right.
People can learn about Catholic Answers Live that way.
Yep.
There's just a million situations where somebody might look at that sticker, listen a little bit, and their life would be changed.
Yeah, I've talked to people that call in and donate sometimes to Catholic Answers, and they've said, well, one day I was just sitting in traffic and I saw this bumper sticker for Catholic radio.
Yeah.
We hear that all the time from callers.
It's awesome. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that don't know that Catholic Answers Live is just a program on Catholic radio, and so in some markets they may not have Catholic Answers Live.
Yeah.
And so we want people to be able to know about the program and all the ways that they can listen through the app, through SiriusXM, on EWTN app, on there's so many ways. So if we can get these materials to you, and you can bring them to your parish for parish events, put them in the vestibule with your pastor's approval to do that, or just stand outside Mass and just hand them out on Sundays, that would be great.
So you tell us again, how do you become a parish partner?
Become a parish partner. Go to CatholicAnswersLive.com and click the Become a Partner button. It's that simple. It gives you some details, and it's a simple form. You just fill that out, and then we'll reach out to you and then provide the materials to you. Or you can email us at calpartners@catholic.com, calpartners.com.
CalPartners.com.
Cal Partners, short for Catholic Answers Live. Cal
Thanks,
Partners.
Donna.
Thanks, Cy. Thanks,
I really
Jimmy.
appreciate it. I'm kind of shocked. We'll have to talk about this later. There are Catholic radio stations that don't have Catholic Answers Live on them. I can't even imagine why
that's
anyone
a
would.
myth.
Is it a myth?
Is it a myth?
A mythical Catholic radio station
like unicorns and stuff.
Yeah, there's no reason not to listen. There's a way to get us no matter what.
That's a good point.
We're willing to give you our program no matter where you are if you're a radio station, and we're willing to give it to you over our apps and all kinds of other ways too.
Yeah, right.
For free.
For free. Anybody wants it.
You want it, you can
stream
have
it through your app.
Stream
put it on
live,
your station.
through the podcast.
Say it again. Catholic Answers Partners. How do I get?
CAL Partners at Catholic.com. Cal Partners at Catholic.com.
Cal Partners at Catholic.com. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Open Forum with Jimmy Akin right after this.
There's only one Catholic Answers Live.
Encounter with Dan Demete and Patrick Rice is our new radio show for young adults.
The Holy Spirit is about a new and exciting work in the young church of today. On Encounter, we bring young adults the life-changing testimonies of ordinary people that launch them into lives of extraordinary mission. Their testimonies bring faith and power into the lives of everyone who listens.
Encounter with Dan Demete and Patrick Rice. The Spiritual Awakening continues Saturday night, 8 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Catholic Answers Live is brought to you in part by CatholicSingles.com, the website for Catholics who want to meet others who share their Catholic values for faith, fellowship, and love. You can learn more at CatholicSingles.com. Catholic Answers Live thanks CatholicSingles.com for their generous support.
Homeschool Connections, an online provider of courses for your Catholic homeschool, is a sponsor of Catholic Answers Live. Homeschool Connections website is homeschoolconnections.com.
Call now with your question. 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Cy Kellett, your host, Jimmy Akin. Our guest, Jimmy Akin, is a senior apologist here at Catholic Answers and author of many things. Oh, yeah, you forgot about this. You got the Bible Difficulties one, too. 20 Answers Bible Difficulties.
I didn't forget about it.
Well, I forgot to mention it when I was mentioning all your voluminous writings earlier.
That
this
would
is
take
the latest
a while.
one.
The latest published one? I think so. I think that's right.
Yeah. You should do some more, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Some more 20 answers.
Well, as soon as I get an outline approved, I will.
I'm not the guy that approves them. Anonymous in New York watching on YouTube. Thanks for watching on YouTube, Anonymous. Your question for Jimmy?
Hey, Jimmy. My question today is on why the church bans membership to Freemasonry but doesn't ban membership to the Boy Scouts. I'm a recent Catholic convert who is both a third-degree Freemason and an Eagle Scout, and I was reading on the Catholic.com article about this that talks about how Freemasonry espouses indifferentialism and naturalistic religions, how it contains a moral code, vestments, prayer, worship, hierarchy, initiation, burial rites, and it shares a lot of those same things with Boy Scouts.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a few other reasons listed, like how it's a secret society and the intensity of the relationship with religion, but I think those tend to be like a matter of degree instead of a matter of substance.
Where were you reading this?
Why is that?
Where were you reading this?
On the what does the church say about Freemasonry on Catholic.com?
Oh, I see. Okay.
August 4th, 2011.
Okay. Well, I haven't read that piece, so and I don't know who wrote it, and that's fine. I don't need to for purposes of our discussion. You're right that Boy Scouts are an interreligious organization, and they have certain commonalities with other social groups, including Freemasonry. But Freemasonry does have some distinctives that make it unique. One of them is that it has a history in various places, not necessarily here in America in recent times, but in other countries in particular. It's had an agenda of attempting to actively subvert the church, and that's actually the canon that is deemed as prohibiting membership in Freemasonry in the Code of Canon Law is that Catholics aren't to join organizations that are subversive of the church. And so that's one aspect of it. Now, not everywhere is it trying to subvert the church in an active, aggressive way. In fact, there are lots of lodges here in America that would say, "Oh, we don't care if you're Catholic; you're welcome to be a member of our lodge." But there are other difficulties. One of the terms you mentioned from the article is indifferentism. And indifferentism isn't just an inclusive attitude where you accept people of different religions in your club. Lots of clubs do that. The Boy Scouts do that. Every dance club I am a member of does not have a religious test for whether you join. And it's certainly possible to have organizations that accept different kinds of Christians or even members of other religions. The World Council of Churches would be an example of a multi-Christian organization that welcomes people from different Christian backgrounds. Having said that, there is a particular belief that some people have that goes beyond just welcoming people of different backgrounds and actually saying it does not matter to God what your religion is. And that's one of the problems with Freemasonry. Freemasonry, at least and I'm not saying every Freemason claims this, but historically, Freemasonry has adopted an indifferentist position that says God is indifferent to, he doesn't care what religion you are. And that's something that we know from the Bible is not true. God does care what religion you are. He may be willing to save people, from different religious backgrounds, but he really wants you to be a Christian, and he really wants you to be in full communion with his son's church. So that's a point where Freemasonry involves theological error, whereas the Boy Scouts wouldn't. the Boy Scouts may say, we're a Christian organization, we welcome people from all kinds of Christian backgrounds, but they don't go so far as to say, and it doesn't matter to God what kind of Christian you are. In addition, there are some problems with some of the Masonic rites, which are modeled more closely after religious worship rituals than our common Boy Scout things. Like, Boy Scout, the Scout's oath is not. Most people wouldn't look at that and feel like they're at church, when they hear the Boy Scouts oath. But some of the Masonic rituals get much more elaborate than that, and some of them involve the invocation of God, or in Masonic terms, the grand architect of the universe, in ways that are quite problematic from a Christian point of view. My understanding, my memory, is that at one of the higher level Masonic rituals in at least some Masonic traditions, there's an invocation of God using the name, if I have it right, Yabul Khan. And that's a hybrid name of 3 different deities, one of them being Yahweh, but another of them being Bel or Baal or Marduk. And any kind of hybridization of the true God with false gods is going to be very problematic from a Christian perspective, and that's the Boy Scouts aren't doing that, but apparently at least some Masons are. So hope that sheds some light on your question, Anonymous.
Okay, all right, Anonymous, thank you.
I think that's very useful. I'm as I said, I'm a third degree Freemason, and I'm an Eagle Scout. And when I was in Boy Scouts, I was actually an atheist. And I was having trouble because Boy Scouts, just like Freemasonry, requires a belief in God.
Right.
And it seems like it's too fine of a point for me to differentiate easily. And although I am a third degree Freemason, I haven't heard that particular name of God invoked that you mentioned.
Yeah, I once saw a reenactment. It was a demonstration. It wasn't the act. I've never been in a Masonic lodge, so I haven't seen actual rituals performed, but I did see a demonstration or reenactment of the ritual that was being done under the auspices of a former Mason. I'd have to do a little research to go back and find the actual ritual, but it is a significant difference to say, hey, we welcome people who believe in God, versus saying God doesn't care what your religion is as long as you believe in him. That's a significant shift in attitude.
Anonymous, we will leave it there. Thanks so much. I hope that was helpful to you. It's open forum today on Catholic Answers Live. Open forum means any question about the Catholic faith is welcome. When Jimmy's here, we usually like to say we broaden that out a little bit. If you have a more general religious question or philosophical, those are also welcome. 888-318-7884 is the number. And as always, both Catholics and non-Catholics are welcome to call. Riley in Ann Arbor, listening on Catholic Radio 990. You are up next. Riley, your question for Jimmy. Riley?
Yes. Hello?
Yes, you're on the air. What's your
Can you hear me?
question? We can. What's your question?
Okay, yeah. So I don't know what the difference is between different rites within the church. For example, the Byzantine rite and the Roman rite, or in any other rites that might exist. And I'm also trying to get into reading the Church Fathers, and I don't know exactly where to start. And word on the street is you wrote a book about that. That's what the call screener told me.
Okay.
Word on the street. On the streets, they're talking about your books, Jim.
Hey, how about that? So there are 5, technically speaking, there are 5 rites in the Catholic Church. These are liturgical and legal traditions that inform the life of individual Catholic churches. The Latin rite is the largest or most widely used. There are others, including the Byzantine rite, the Chaldean rite, and so forth. Those 5 basic rites are then used by 21 different churches that are in communion with Rome. The largest of them is the Latin Church, and as the name suggests, it uses the Latin Rite. And then there are these other churches that each have their own law. They're called churches sui juris. And an example would be the Maronite Catholic Church, and another would be the Chaldean Catholic Church, both of which use one of the Eastern rites rather than the Latin Rite. So properly speaking, a rite refers to a liturgical and legal tradition that's used by the different churches with their own laws that are in communion with Rome. Although popularly the term rite is also just used to refer to any of the churches with their own law. So that's kind of an overview of the basic concept. In terms of books on the Church Fathers, mine is called The Fathers Know Best, and another one that you might want to take a look at is called Early Christian Writings, edited by Maxwell Staniforth.
Riley, thanks so much for that question. The music's playing. We got to take a break. We'll be right back with more Open Forum with Jimmy Akin on Catholic Answers Live.
Waiting for your call. Grab that line and get on board.
Is the church wrong on contraception? In a culture that worships the pursuit of sexual pleasure, the Catholic Church's teaching on contraception can seem archaic and unintelligible. Its critics say it's outdated, theologically unfounded, and even harmful. And even faithful Catholics can have difficulty explaining this moral teaching. Catholic Answers is out to change all of that. That's why we've just released Trent Horn's dynamic new DVD, The Case Against Contraception. Using scripture, papal and magisterial teachings, natural law, and new insights provided by social science and medicine, Trent puts forward a compelling case for Catholic teachings with his trademark charity and persuasive graciousness. Be prepared to give a defense. Order your copy of The Case Against Contraception today by calling 1-888-291-8000, logging on to the shop at Catholic.com, or asking for it at a good Catholic bookstore near you.
Time is running out to help Catholic Answers' annual summer campaign. We're in the lean summer months, and this year we're forecasting a summer shortfall of $220,000 before our income picks up again later in the year. This is a crucial time because we need to offset that drop in donations. To make your donation and get your special thank you gifts, visit Catholic.com and click the summer campaign banner, or call us toll-free at 888-291-8000. That's the summer campaign banner at Catholic.com, or call toll-free 888-291-8000.
Tim Staples, Trent Horn, Cy Kellett, Chris Check, Carlo Broussard. Our on-fire lineup of speakers will inform and inspire your audience to grow in their Catholic faith. For more information on booking a Catholic Answers speaker for your event, visit CatholicAnswersSpeakers.com today.
I'm Tom Price.
And I'm Gloria Purvis. Tomorrow, Father Jordan Schmidt.
And we're talking summer food with Jeff Young. Join us for Morning Glory, 7 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Now, back to Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Jimmy Akin, our guest this hour. Next hour, Jim Blackburn will be here. Open forum both hours. If you have a question about the Catholic faith, about Catholic beliefs, Catholic people, Catholic ideas, it's all welcome. Just give us a call, 888-318-7884, 888-31-TRUTH if you prefer the spelled version. And we go now to Kelly in Spring, Texas, listening on 1430 AM. Kelly, your question for Jimmy Akin.
Hey, guys. My question is regarding confession and communion for Protestants. So I have a friend of mine who seems to be drawn toward those two things in our church. I'm born and raised Catholic. And my understanding is this person is going to communion. I don't know if she's gone to confession. I'm trying to kind of stay out of it. But wondering what the rules are. And what is the reason? What do you tell a Protestant? Hey, you can't go to confession, you can't go to communion because you're not Catholic, and then, of course, that makes it sound exclusionary and mean.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what are the rules?
Okay.
And obviously, a priest that's taking communion, it's not like you've got a Catholic card you give him, right? So he doesn't know. And so, what are the rules there? And
okay, here's what the rules are. In the Code of Canon Law, there's a canon which you can look up online. It's called Canon 844, and it deals with the situations in which the sacraments can be administered to different groups of people. One of the parts of the canon deals with the situation of people who are Catholics. Another deals with the situation of people who are Eastern Orthodox or other Eastern Christians. And then there's a section on other Christians who aren't in communion with Rome, and that's the part of the canon that refers to Protestants. Basically, it says that there are some circumstances where they can receive certain sacraments. There are 3 sacraments that they can potentially receive. One of them is confession. Another is Holy Communion, and another is the anointing of the sick. And in the case of Protestants, the conditions are fairly strict for when they can receive them. One of them, in fact, the first condition, is there needs to be either danger of death or another grave necessity. And so if you have a Protestant and they're in danger of dying, or they have some other grave need to receive the Eucharist or confession or the anointing of the sick, then that meets the first of the conditions. Another condition is they need to share the Church's faith in the sacrament. They need to believe about it what we do, at least in general terms. So they need to believe, for example, that in the case of the Eucharist, they need to believe that Jesus is really there, that it's not just bread. In the case of confession, they need to believe that God will absolve them through this. In the case of the anointing of the sick, they need to believe that God will give them His grace through this sacrament, possibly including healing if it's His will. So they need to share our faith in these sacraments. They also need to ask for them on their own and not be like coerced into it by somebody. And they need to have the proper dispositions, like in the case of the Eucharist, they need to fast for an hour beforehand. And also they need to not be able to approach a minister of their own communion for the same sacrament. So in this country, those conditions aren't met very frequently by people who are Protestant and have no interest in becoming Catholic. But it is possible for them to receive those sacraments. And so it's reasonable to say, there are situations in which you could receive a sacrament like this. And so that is a way of taking some of the edge off of saying, no, you can't. But then you need to deliver the other part of the message if you're getting involved in telling them the truth about the Church's rules on this. Because the general rule is, even though there are situations where you can receive these sacraments, most of the time they don't apply. And one of the reasons for that is the Church has always viewed communion in particular as a sign of full unity. That if you're receiving from the Lord's table with us, that's a sign that you fully are in agreement with us, that you're fully in union with us. And if you're not fully in union with us at the moment, then under ordinary circumstances, you shouldn't be receiving, because it misrepresents the fact that you're not actually fully in union with us. It's great that we're in partial union, and if one day we're in full union, let's say you become a Catholic, there's no more barrier. But apart from special circumstances, like if you were dying, you ordinarily shouldn't be receiving. Having said that, if I would go a step further and say if she's responding to the Church's teachings about confession and communion and recognizing the value of those sacraments, I'd say that's an invitation to go further, to study deeper, and to look at other issues with an open mind towards whether the Catholic Church might be right. That's an attitude that I had when I was Protestant. I realized the Catholic Church had certain truths that I wasn't finding represented in the same way in the Protestant community, I realized I needed to look at other issues with an open mind to whether the Catholic Church might be right. And when I did that, I concluded it was right and I needed to become a Catholic. And so that's the course I would recommend for her.
Okay, Kelly?
Okay, that sounds good. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. No problem. 888-31-TRUTH, the number. Open forum means anybody can call with any question they have on the life, the faith, the history of the Catholic Church. We go now to Gary in Ennisville, Ontario, Canada, listening on shortwave. That's cool, Gary. Thanks for your call. Your question for Jimmy.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Gary here. My question today is regarding St. John the Apostle. I'd like to know if we have any first-class relics, or if we know where his burial site is, or if he was assumed into heaven.
Okay. To answer the questions in reverse order, he was not assumed into heaven, and we do have a good idea of where his burial site is. It's located in Ephesus, which is on the coast, on the west coast of Turkey today. Back then, it was the Roman province of Asia Minor, but today it's part of Turkey. And you can actually go visit his tomb. I've been there. But there's a complication, because there were two famous Johns in the early church. Actually, there was more than that, but there were two who were particularly famous and who are buried at Ephesus. One of them, according to early Christian writings, is John the Apostle, and the other is a figure known as John the Presbyter, who was also an eyewitness of the ministry of Jesus. And so both of these eyewitnesses of the ministry of Jesus, the apostle and the presbyter, both ended up going to Ephesus and perishing there, which is why they're both buried there in separate tombs. So we know, we have good reason to think, okay, one of these two tombs is John the Apostle's, but we're not 100% sure of which one. And in terms of the first question you asked, which I'll answer last, I am not aware of any first-class relics of John. I would not at all be surprised if there are some out there that are reported to be first-class relics of his, but I am unaware of any, and I would suggest Googling the matter. Just type in John Apostle first-class relics, see what comes up. I would be a little skeptical of such relics because he died at such an early date that it was long before the custom of taking relics from the remains of a saint had emerged. In his own day, they would have just buried his body. And the only way we would have relics is if someone later came along and exhumed or partially exhumed the body to take relics. And that could have happened, but one would want some historical evidence of it happening.
Okay, Gary?
When did the custom start of collecting relics?
My memory is that it started by the 3rd century. I seem to remember there was a case of a woman in the 200s who got in trouble with a local priest for wanting to venerate an unauthenticated bone of a martyr. But I remember reading about that in a book on church history by the Quaker historian Roland Bainton, but I would have to look up the details. But I believe that was in the 200s. It didn't become firmly established until later, is my understanding.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks very much. Hope that was helpful. That's EWTN with that shortwave signal that goes all around the world, as far as I know. Appreciate that. Jimmy, we were talking a little bit before about your latest published book being Bible Difficulties, and you got a whole bunch of them here. And I did want to remind folks that...
Copies of the book?
No. I meant... Wait, what did I just say?
Because I only see one copy of the book.
I meant copies of your other books.
Here.
A whole bunch of your books here. That's
okay.
I got a little ahead of myself, maybe. But all of them are on sale right now at shop.catholic.com. As a matter of fact, almost all of our total stock of books, audio, DVDs, tracks, digital products, all on sale, 10 to 25% off. In some cases, more than 25% off, including all of these. Look at these things I have in front of me. Jimmy Akin, Understanding Revelation. That's a DVD. Why You Can Trust the Gospels. That's a DVD. That's last year you did that DVD, right? That was I remember when that came out.
I don't recall specific dates.
Oh no. Well, I follow you. I follow your career.
Okay. You're stalking me is what you're saying.
Yeah, a little bit. Am I the only one, Jimmy? Come on, you're Jimmy Akin. The Fathers Know Best, the book we were talking about a little bit earlier, The Drama of Salvation, A Daily Defense, all that. Just go to shop.catholic.com and start saving right now. You don't need a promo code. There is no promo code. It's all on sale. Shop.catholic.com.
Bringing you the truth. Catholic Answers Live.
Pope Francis reminds us that it does not take a specialized degree in theology to become a great evangelist. We're all called to evangelize. Think about the woman at the well. After she encountered Jesus, she immediately went into the city and invited others to meet him as she had. You and I can go out now and do the same. And St. Paul Street Evangelization can help. Get involved today by contacting us at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
I come from the other side of the tracks, see? My uncle used to have slot machines. Put one nickel in and it's emptied. Boom. And I brought him home in a bag, and my mother looked at me. Where did you get all that money? I said, I won them. You didn't win them. He fixed the machine. I didn't care if he fixed the machine or not, you know?
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Call now with your question. 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Jimmy Akin, our guest, open forum, our topic. Lots of folks on the lines, but we've got another hour coming up. If you want to get in the queue, just dial 888-318-7884, and you will be in the queue. We go now to John in Chicago, watching on Facebook. John, your question for Jimmy.
Hello. I would just like an overview of how real the struggle was for Catholics before it was legalized in the 300s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was every emperor bad? Were there some emperors who were good? Like, what was it like? How real was the struggle?
Okay. Basically, there was a cycle of persecution, but it waxed and waned. That means it went up and went down. So there were periods in which there were local persecutions. We read about some of those in the New Testament. For example, in Acts chapter 12, we read that King Herod Agrippa I, around the year AD 43, arrested some early Christians, including James the Apostle, and executed James and tried to execute Peter. That would be one example of a local persecution. Similarly, when Stephen in Acts chapter 7 was stoned by the Sanhedrin, when he was stoned to death, that would be another example of local persecution. We read in elsewhere in Acts, like when Paul is in Philippi, in the Macedonian city of Philippi in Acts chapter 16, he was in the process of being beaten, and they took him to prison overnight, so he was jailed, and he later invoked his Roman citizenship, which they should not have beaten a Roman citizen without trial. So they really apologized fast and got him out of town. So there was sporadic persecution. The most famous early widespread persecution occurred in Rome beginning in the year AD 65. You commonly hear it said that it's AD 64, but it's really 65. What happened was in AD 64, a fire broke out in Rome. And it was a very destructive fire. It destroyed large portions of the city. And afterwards, Nero started building a lot of fancy buildings, including, he also worked on one he called his House of Gold, his Domus Aurea, which was this like really fancy golden palace. And people started to say, hey, I think Nero set that fire just so he could clear ground for his building projects. And so this rumor got started. And Nero, at first, tried to deny it and tried to deflect blame in various ways. And eventually he said, okay, guys, here's the straight scoop. It was set by those Christians. And so and it took a while for that process of events to play out before the rumor got really firm enough for Nero to take it seriously, and then he tried to deny it in other ways. And he may not have done it. It may have been an totally accidental fire. But eventually, by AD 65, he started to settle on Christians as the arsonists. And so he then began to persecute Christians in the city of Rome itself. St. Peter was killed during that martyrdom, during that persecution. He also, huge numbers of other Christians were arrested and executed. According to the reports we have from Roman historians, Nero, since they were accused of arson, of setting the city on fire, he set them on fire. He would burn them alive at night in his gardens as living human torches. And he was so cruel that even the pagans in Rome, who didn't really like the Christians, thought this is just excessive. This is just one man's barbarity. These Christians don't deserve this. And Nero, for other reasons, made himself additionally unpopular and ended up being declared an enemy of the state by the Roman Senate in AD 68 and was sort of forced to commit suicide. And that ended his persecution. Now, another emperor later on in the first century, Domitian, who reigned in the AD 90s, is sometimes thought to have initiated a persecution, but our evidence there is a lot shakier. Also, there was the Emperor Trajan around the year 112. One of the governors named Pliny the Younger wrote him a letter saying, hey, I've got these Christians here that were reported to me. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do about them. I haven't ever been to a trial of Christians before. What can you tell me? And Trajan wrote back and said, well, don't go seek them out, but if they're reported to you, they need to be punished, and here are some procedures. And that illustrates the fact that Pliny didn't know the procedures, indicates there wasn't an active, aggressive persecution happening at that time, which is also indicated by Trajan's response that don't seek them out. So there was kind of a waxing and waning of persecutions. One of the most severe persecutions occurred shortly before Christianity was legalized under the Emperor Diocletian, who was very aggressive and initiated an empire-wide persecution of Christianity that produced many martyrs. But for much of the time, being a Christian was kind of like being a second-class citizen. You kind of kept it on the down low that you were a Christian, but you weren't actively being persecuted much of the time.
How does that strike you, John?
Just as a follow-up, were there any good guys, emperors, who were relatively benevolent? Like any specific ones?
There were ones who they had different degrees of benevolence, and probably before Constantine, one of the potentially most benevolent emperors was a guy who lived in the 200s named Philip the Arab. And he was an actual Arab ethnically. You could become a citizen of Rome eventually if you had an ancestry that was non-Roman, and you could even rise to become emperor. And Philip the Arab, from what we can tell, at least from early Christian sources, was apparently fairly friendly to Christians and even may have believed in Christ himself. But he didn't do he didn't have the same role in history that later Constantine the Great would in the early 300s.
Thanks so much for that question, John. I was actually fascinated to hear a whole lot of that. It was Philip the Arab. I'm going to have to look him up.
Yeah.
Philip the Arab. And around when was he?
He was in the 200s. I want to say that around 260.
And help me out, because I do not remember this. There's the period where they call the 5 good emperors, or the Marcus Aurelius among them.
Yeah, that phase is a little after where I've done the most study.
I see. I got you.
But yeah, I thought for a second you were going to refer to the year of 4 emperors, where you had 4 in rapid succession.
That's not a good year.
To quote George Lucas, it was a time of civil war.
I guess so. Yeah, because those things were not resolved with a Supreme Court decision in those days. So let's go to Carlo in San Diego, listening on the Catholic Answers app. Thanks for downloading the app on your phone. Carlo, your question for Jimmy. Carlo?
Hello, Jimmy. How are you doing?
Just fine.
All right. So
I've been a baptized member of the Roman Catholic Church, but, never been catechized, never went to Mass, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so recently I came to the Christian faith, and I became an Orthodox Christian, Greek Orthodox.
Mm-hmm.
And I was charismated just last December. Mm-hmm. But recently I realized that the divisions between the two churches were much more complicated. I could even wrap my head around half of them.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, in the meantime, is there any, am I in any serious spiritual danger should I never submit to Rome, before I leave this earth?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Well, first of all, we wouldn't frame it as Catholics in terms of submitting to Rome. That language has been used in the past, but these days the Church speaks in terms of coming into full communion with rather than submitting. And in terms of if you never became Catholic, never came into full communion with the Catholic Church, well, that from a Catholic perspective, that's not what God wants for you. Whether it would constitute a barrier to your salvation will depend on the level of knowledge you have. You mentioned you were baptized Catholic but never catechized in the Catholic faith, and right now you're at an early stage where you don't have a lot of knowledge about the reasons for the separation or which church you ought to be a member of. So God understands your lack of knowledge at this point and will take that into account. If you were to say, I just don't care about this question, I don't care where God wants me, I'm not going to study this, well, saying you don't care about God's will is something that could jeopardize your salvation. But the fact you're asking this question, the fact that you're willing to look into these matters is itself a sign of God's grace working in your life. And I would encourage you to keep studying. And we have resources here that could potentially help you, and we're always happy to answer particular questions either here on Catholic Answers Live or when you call our apologist line. So we're here to help.
Before I go, could you recommend me a resource for not so much on the papacy stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but filioque?
Yeah.
I haven't seen much of that.
Okay. We actually have some articles about that at Catholic.com that are available there for free if you just go to Catholic.com and type in filioque. Also, the Catechism of the Catholic Church has a treatment of this that you can find in the section on the Holy Spirit, and you can find the Catechism of the Catholic Church at the Vatican website at vatican.va. The quick way to get it is just type in on Google Catechism of the Catholic Church, filioque, and it should take you to the exact passage you need. And I've also written about it a little bit myself, but I would just suggest starting with Catholic.com and the Catechism of the Catholic Church.
Thanks, Carlo. Let's see if we can get one more question in before we have to go. Let's go to John in Orlando, Florida, listening on EWTN Radio. John, your question for Jimmy. Do we have him there? Got a little bit of phone trouble. John, are you there? Well, I'm going to tell you what his question is because he may still be on the line. We're just having a little technical problem today. His question, Jimmy, is what is the etymology of the word apologetics?
Okay. It comes from the Greek word apologia, which means a defense. And so when Socrates, in Plato's dialogue, The Apology, when Socrates gives his apology to the men of Athens, he's giving his legal defense of his position against the charges against him, which were that he was corrupting the youth and promoting disbelief in the gods. And he said, I'm not doing either one of those. In a Christian context, apologetics then is the defense of the faith, where you provide evidence for the faith and answer objections to it. The roots that apologia comes from are apa, which is a preposition in Greek that means from, and logia, which means a speech. And so an apologia, based on its etymology, is a speech from a position. And then it came to mean from that a defense of a position.
Well, John, I'm sorry we weren't able to actually talk with you, but I hope that answer was satisfying. It's the quality of answers like that are why Jimmy's the senior apologiaist here at.
Thank you very much, Cyril Kelly.
Apologia.
Our radio house.
Oh man! Sometimes you just make me look silly with that. I don't know why you do that, Jimmy. I don't know why you feel that's all right.
Having fun with you.
I know. Jimmy Akin, thanks very, very much. As always, a great hour. Next hour, we're still going to keep doing this. So if you're on the line, stay on the line. If you haven't called yet, you can get in that line, and you will probably get you. I'm pretty sure we'll get to you next hour. 888-318-7884, the number. If you're Catholic, if you're not Catholic, everybody's welcome. It's open forum today on Catholic Answers Live. Next hour, Jim Blackburn in here to take your questions. We'll get to that right after this on Catholic Answers Live.
Are faith and science compatible? Are they friends or foes? Catholic Answers Magazine is tackling that question and others with our very special Faith and Science issue, delving deep into what is arguably one of the most debated topics of our day. Want to be sure to get your copy? Subscribe right now to the best Catholic apologetics magazine anywhere by calling 818-487-2011 or going to CatholicAnswersMagazine.com. We'll take an in-depth look at the Catholic view of evolution with Dr. Stacy Trasenkos. We'll review the most common misconceptions about how faith and science stand in opposition with Dr. Chris Kazor. And apologist Trent Horn will refute the skeptic's claim that something can come from nothing, plus so much more. Don't miss out on what will be a virtual handbook on one of the most important issues of our day. Call 818-487-2011 or go to CatholicAnswersMagazine.com right now to get subscriptions for yourself and those you love. Share the faith, defend the faith. Catholic Answers Magazine. From Catholic Answers, the most trusted name in Catholic apologetics.
With the 50th anniversary of the release of Humanae Vitae approaching, you can expect fresh attacks on Catholic teaching from outside and, unfortunately, inside the Church. That's why Catholic Answers thought it critical to provide a vigorous affirmation of Paul VI's prophetic wisdom with our newest book, Inseparable: 5 Perspectives on Sex, Life, and Love in Defense of Humanae Vitae. We asked 5 distinguished contributors to reflect on and defend Humanae Vitae from 5 perspectives, each of them compelling, together forming a mosaic of truth. Don't be caught uninformed when the topic comes up among friends, family, and coworkers. Order your copy of Inseparable today by calling 1-888-291-8000 or visiting the shop at Catholic.com.
Have a question? We've got answers. Catholic Answers Live.
So, you're listening to Catholic Radio. I think it's safe to say that you probably want to become like Jesus. Theosis is a fancy word used to explain the process of becoming like Christ. It's how God takes sinners like you and me and transforms us into who we were created to be. Basically, rockin' saints. Clumsy Theosis is a podcast where I take 2,000 years of Catholic goodness, draw from the great minds and spiritual masters of the Church, boil it down, distill it, and give practical advice to 21st century Christians. Basically, we'll learn how to do this Catholic thing like a boss. Subscribe to Clumsy Theosis wherever good podcasts are found.
Let's be honest. A visit to Catholic.com is like a visit to no other place on the internet. We hear it time and time again. Catholic Answers changes people's lives. That's a responsibility and a mission that we take seriously. In the last year alone, we've revised the site and given it an exciting new look and improved functionality. We offer more than 10,000 online articles, videos, and audio files, all available to you free of charge. Every year, we get millions of visitors, from non-Catholics to potential converts, from parents to teens, to our men and women overseas. Our door is open to everyone, and we're looking ahead with big plans for the future, continuing to make Catholic.com even more informative, relevant, and feature-rich. Visit Catholic.com today to see what's happening and find out how you can get involved. And know that we appreciate and welcome all of your support, your testimonials, your prayers, your time, your talents, and your treasures as we partner together to build a bigger and better Catholic.com.
Tim Staples, Trent Horn, Cy Kellett, Chris Check, Carlo Broussard. Our on-fire lineup of speakers will inform and inspire your audience to grow in their Catholic faith. For more information on booking a Catholic Answers speaker for your event, visit CatholicAnswersSpeakers.com today.
Welcome to Catholic Answers Live, the program where you participate with your questions about apologetics and evangelization, including the most important theological, spiritual, moral, and social issues facing the world today. Call now with your question for today's guest. Toll free 1-888-31-TRUTH. That's 888-318-7884. Now, from San Diego, Catholic Answers Live.
Hello and welcome to the second hour of Open Forum on Catholic Answers Live. Open Forum is for everybody. Whether you're Catholic or not, you are welcome to call. And any question on the life, the faith, the history of the Catholic Church, you want to know what Catholics believe, why Catholics believe that, we'd love to have your call. 888-318-7884. Haven't had any Buddhist callers lately. If you're a Buddhist and you got a question, give us a call. 888-318-7884. I don't remember the last time we had a Hindu caller. Haven't been that many atheist callers. I'm trying to stir up some call. We love our Catholic callers, but we want to make sure that everyone knows that they are welcome to call. 888-318-7884. Our guest this hour is Jeff Blackburn. Is that Jim or Jeff Blackburn? I can't.
Nice try there, Cy. It's Jim. It's Jim today.
Okay, it's Jim today. Jim is he's one of the speakers for Catholic Answers. You just go to CatholicAnswersSpeakers.com if you want to know how to get him to come to speak to your group. He'll do it. His books include 101 Quick Questions with Catholic Answers, Marriage, Divorce, and Annulment, as well as one of the 20 Answers books, Scripture and Tradition. Another one, The Papacy. One I have here in my hand, Homosexuality. One on divorce and remarriage. Welcome, Jeff Blackburn.
Thank you so much. And for anyone who doesn't know, Jeff is my identical twin brother, but he is not here today. This is actually me.
I am convinced that you two switch places. And so I never know if I'm speaking to Jim or Jeff.
If we do, we're not going to tell you about it.
No, but that's why I call you Jeff, just to see if you'll notice. And I noticed immediately you picked up on it. So, okay, maybe you are Jim Blackburn. Perhaps.
I am.
Jim, are you working on any more 20 Answers books?
I am. I'm working on another one for this fall on the early church.
Cool.
Hope it's okay that I'm talking about that. Todd hasn't said not to, so
okay.
Yeah, it's you mentioned two of them that I've written, one on the papacy and one on Scripture and Tradition, which gives us the grounding for the authority in the early church and the authority that we still have today. But a lot of Christians reject that, and if they were to look at what happened in the early church, what happened after Jesus ascended up, what happened after what we're told in the Acts of the Apostles took place, what happened after that? Christians oftentimes stop there. If it's not in Scripture, they don't want to hear about it, don't want to read about it, don't want to look into it. But it's important, if you do look into it, you find out that the early church was the Catholic Church, and it continued to grow, and so it's very I think a very important topic. And
is it fair to say that the earliest church, let's say immediately after the death of the last apostle, that what we would have seen had we gone to visit the earliest church was a church that was hierarchical, priestly, and Eucharistic?
Absolutely.
All those.
All of those. Yeah. Apostolic as well.
That looks an awful lot like the Catholic Church of today. We got a ton of calls already. Do you feel
okay?
Are you loose enough to just go straight to calls, or do you need to do some stretching, or you ready to go?
Okay. Sure.
Rich in San Antonio, Texas, listening on Guadalupe Radio. You are on with Jeff Blackburn. Your question, please.
Hello, Rich.
We have a little. We're having a little delay in our phone lines, and some stuff's happening today. So I will see if we can get Rich back. Let me go to Alan in Washington, listening to EWTN channel 130 on Sirius XM satellite radio. Alan, do we have you?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can, and you have Jim Blackburn. Your question, please.
Hi, Alan.
Hi. I have a Calvinist friend who says that the Crusades kind of indicate that they don't believe that any church should have the power to do anything like launch the Crusades, and I don't know how to answer that.
Okay. Now, specifically, is he looking for, or are you looking for a response to how the church has the authority, or the reason that the church began the Crusades? What more specifically, Alan? Where are you directing your question?
The church should have so much power. How do you answer the question of a church having that much power, I guess?
Oh, okay. Well, as far as the Crusades go, these were largely really defensive measures that were carried out by the church. With the spread of Islam in a very violent way, taking over the Holy Land and other Christian lands, threatening to spread, even into at later time spread into Europe. The Christians as a people needed to defend themselves. That authority just comes from God. We have the right to protect ourselves, to protect those who we love, to protect our property, and such, from unjust aggressors. So this is an authority that we as human beings have. It's not specifically an authority that was given to the church above all else. The Catholic Church exercised this authority in the sense that these were Christians who were being persecuted, and Christian lands that were being taken over, and this was a pushback specifically towards the Holy Land. So I would answer him, that this is an authority, a power that it's a basic human right, and it's something that we can find in the natural law, something that God gives us that authority, that power to do. Does that help, Alan? Maybe start in that direction?
Yes, thank you.
Alan, I'd like to send you a book. It's a book called The Glory of the Crusades by Steve Weidenkopf. It's published by Catholic Answers Press. The total cost to you will be, let me just carry the two, nothing. So can you hang on the line, Alan, and we'll get your address?
Sure, thank you.
Okay, good. I think you'll really enjoy that book, and everything Steve Weidenkopf writes is really, really good. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's go to Rich in San Antonio, Texas, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Rich, are you there?
I am. Good afternoon, Jim or Jeff.
Thank you for saying that, Rich.
And Cy, thanks for taking my call.
Good afternoon, Rich.
I got disconnected. I didn't know if he had enough time to stretch before he took my call.
Okay. All right. We're good. Go ahead. What your question?
I'm stretched and relaxed and ready to go, Rich.
Excellent. So, Cy, I listen to your show every day. I love it. I'm embarrassed as a cradle Catholic that I learned so much listening to your show that I know I should have already known. My question, I've heard about the just war doctrine, but I really don't know anything about it and what it truly says. And as a retired career service member, I do have some depression directly related to PTSD, and I would like to know what our faith says about our soldiers and service members that are called to do some things in the service of their country.
Okay. Great question, Rich. And you mentioned just war doctrine. This is something that's covered in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. So I would recommend, if you want to read about it, start there, paragraph 2309. And in fact, it mentions that the strict conditions for legitimate defense by military force requires rigorous consideration. And it goes on to mention the considerations of things that need to be considered, the damage inflicted by the aggressor, other means of responding to it, the prospect of success, these types of things. So I would encourage you to read paragraph 2309. There are some footnotes there for additional reading. And that, I think, will help give you a grounding in the just war doctrine. In addition to that, for your broader question, the entire military perspective, I would read the surrounding paragraphs. In fact, I would start with paragraph 2302. This is a section in the Catechism titled Safeguarding Peace. Start with paragraph 2302 and go on through 2317 or 2330. Actually, there's a brief summary going down through paragraph 2330. So take a look at that section. Again, this on the heels of that first call, this kind of the Catechism mentions here or draws this picture for us and explains in such a way that some of these are necessary rights that we have, and in protection. We want to avoid war if it's practically and reasonably possible to do that, but there are times when it's not, and war can be justified in those cases, combat, military force, and such. So take a look at that section of the Catechism of the Catholic Church. And did you have any more specific questions on it, Rich, or would that be a good start for you?
That's a good start, and I really appreciate it. And I struggle with depression and guilt, but I feel like I'm a good Catholic person, and I just want to make sure that I am right in my faith.
Well, I'd recommend, Rich, then, if you're not speaking with a professional about that, first seek spiritual direction. Just contact your local parish. And secondly, if you feel that there's a need to seek some professional help regarding the depression and such, find a good Catholic therapist. And there's in fact, a website, catholictherapists.com, that you can check out and hopefully find a good Catholic therapist in your area that you can sit down and talk with, and from a Catholic perspective, help you deal with the depression and the guilt that you might feel. I think that, accompanied by a spiritual direction, would go a long way in helping you with those issues. All right, Rich?
Rich?
Excellent. I agree. Thank you.
God bless you, brother. Thank you very much for the call, Rich. A great opportunity to get to speak with you. I know there are many men and women carrying around concerns about what has happened when we're here in Southern California, where there's here in San Diego, we've got Navy and Marines all over the place. And we're grateful to those who did that, but it also leaves, I think, in many cases, questions that just need to be answered about, did I do the right thing, and was that right? And the thing is, Jim, isn't it the case that if you did do the right thing, then God bless you, thank you for what you did. If you didn't, God's merciful. He knows that you tried to.
Yeah, I mean, and if you find out that what you did you shouldn't have done, first of all, it may not have been a sin. If you may not be culpable of it, so it may not be a sin that you're culpable of. And if it is, if you should have known or you did know but you did it anyway, the sacrament of confession is there for the truly repentant to go in and be absolved of those sins.
It's true for all of us. We've all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and And we did it on purpose, a lot of us. And we just need to remember God forgives. God is merciful. No point in worrying about it. Just turn it over to him. We have a really good new podcast here at Catholic Answers, and it's called Clumsy Theosis. I love that name because we are all clumsy. And theosis is this idea of we're being made into the likeness of God. We're being made like God. And that's actually our destination. I think many Christians forget that. Rochelle here at Catholic Answers does the Clumsy Theosis podcast. She does a beautiful job at it, and she's here with me right now. Hi, Rochelle.
Hey, is that Kellet? How you doing?
I'm really, really, really good. And how's it going over there at Clumsy Theosis? You happy with the product so far?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm having a blast doing it, and I've been receiving emails and messages from people about what they're enjoying and some suggestions, like what topics they'd love to cover. So yeah, it's really like an interactive ministry for me.
That's great.
Yeah.
And why'd you do it though? Why? What you're like, I got to do this. Why?
Well, it was becoming more and more apparent to me about all, there are so many faithful Catholics out there that want to grow in their faith, and they're constantly growing in knowledge of the faith, but maybe not necessarily, they're not growing in intimacy with the persons of the life-giving Trinity.
Yeah, right.
Or at least not at the rate in which they would like to.
Yeah.
And that's myself included.
Yeah, and we have this sometimes Catholics, you tell me if you think this is wrong, but we have this Catholic thing of, well, what do I got to do and what do I got to avoid? It's not that, what am I going to become and who is it that's doing this to me?
Exactly, yeah, and I mean, there's a paradigm shift that needs to take place in order for us to like ditch that mentality. And
we don't use the word paradigm on the air. It's far too complicated. I have a rule: don't use words that I have to go look up after the show. That's just. But it's a change in our understanding, a change in the way we're seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we have to. So, how do people find you at Clumsy Theosis?
Well, go to any podcast app. Now, if you have an iPhone, you have iTunes. So just go there and type in Clumsy Theosis. If you have a phone that's operated by Google, like an Android phone, just go to Google Play Music and type in Clumsy Theosis. And, I mean, anyone else who's familiar with podcasts, they already have their favorite podcast app. Just go and type it in there. But if you don't know how to do either of those, you can just go to Google and type Clumsy Theosis, and it'll pop right up.
And I know that you have your master's in theology and all that, and you're a big fancy person and all that, but you talk like a normal person. I really like that. You talk like a normal person about the most important thing in the world, theosis.
Yes.
And most people would be like, what? The what? Or divinization is another word for it.
Yeah, that's a more popular word for Roman Catholics.
Divinization?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, kind of Greek. Theosis is kind of Greek. Huh?
Yeah, so it has an older tradition.
Ah,
right. Yeah, and I figure I'm just talking the way I would talk with my friends. And, I mean, my friends are like some pretty awesome, theologically learned people. And you would never know some of the things that come out of their mouths. I mean, of course not mine. No, I'm joking. But yeah, we're just normal people that just want to be as close to God as possible because there's nothing better in this world.
That's the cool thing about the Christian faith. A normal person, a regular person is called to be like God, or as like 2 Peter says, to participate in the divine nature.
Yeah, and Jesus tells us, be perfect like your heavenly Father is perfect. And I mean, with God's grace, we can do that. And we don't have to like change who we are, change our personalities. I mean, our personalities will be perfected, of course. Maybe refined a little bit, some of us more than others.
Yes, I'm looking forward to some of that refinement. So is everyone who knows me. Rochelle, say it again. Where can we get Clumsy Theosis? Just so people know. You want Clumsy Theosis, the podcast, you go to iTunes.
Yes.
Or wherever you get apps.
Wherever you listen to podcasts.
Or wherever you listen to podcasts. Dang it,
yes.
Apps and podcasts, it's all... All right, we got to take a break so someone can teach me the difference between these things. We'll be right back with more Jim Blackburn Open Forum here on Catholic Answers Live. Thank you very much, Rochelle.
You're very welcome. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Catch Catholic Answers Live anytime at Catholic.com.
Catherine Zeltner, There are so many misconceptions when it comes to abortion and assisted suicide. It's really confusing, and I think for a lot of people, they don't know how to talk about these things. EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, we help to change that. We help to really untangle these web of lies. Listeners can expect to become informed and then grow more confident so they can then discuss and dialogue these issues, and together we can really impact culture in that way.
EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, Sunday morning at 10 a.m. on EWTN Radio.
Pope Francis said, "The key that opens the door to the faith is prayer. Join St. Paul Street Evangelization by running a prayer station in the public square. You don't need to be a professional apologist or theologian. Just listen to the needs of the people you encounter. Offer encouragement, take prayer requests, and pray with people. Find out more and get involved today at streetevangelization.com. That's streetevangelization.com.
Call now with your question. 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. I am Cy Kellett, your host. And our guest this hour is, I'm starting to believe it, Jim Blackburn, that it is him in person. Our topic, whatever you got on your mind. If you want to ask a question about the Catholic faith, if you got a situation in your own life, someone you'd like to explain something to, and you're having trouble thinking, how do I explain that aspect of the Catholic faith? Or maybe you're not Catholic at all, and there's something you always wanted to know about. Why do Catholics do that? Well, first of all, we'll let you know whether, in fact, Catholics do that, whatever it is, and then we'll try to help you understand why we do it. We love conversation. Give us a call, 888-318-7884. Chuck in Battle Creek, listening on Holy Family Radio, is next. Chuck, are you there? And you have a question for Jim?
Hello, I think I am here, yes?
Yes, you're there.
Thank you. Thanks for taking my call, gentlemen. Let's suppose that someone, a lady who is Catholic, wants to marry a man who is Jewish. Can they do that in the church? And, briefly, what would that look like to do that?
Okay, great question. This is what the church would call a marriage that's a mixed marriage, or actually a disparity of cult being religion, where the couple don't share the same religion. So this isn't even like a Christian or Catholic marrying a non-Catholic Christian, which would actually be considered a mixed marriage, but this is a Catholic marrying someone who's not even a Christian at all. The church covers this in the Code of Canon Law, and in fact, Canon 1086 mentions that a marriage between two persons, one of who's a Catholic and the other who is not baptized, is invalid unless, then it goes on to mention how a dispensation can come about. And there are a couple of things that are required. You, as the Catholic, would need to make a promise that this marriage would not be would not conflict with your Catholic faith, would not be a problem for you as a Catholic. Secondly, you would need to promise to raise your children as Catholics. Children coming forth from this marriage, you would need to make that promise that that's what you would do as a Catholic father. That's one of your important roles in life, is to share your faith with your children. The Jewish bride would not have to make these promises herself, but she would need to be made aware of the fact that you're making these promises. If all of that takes place, then you could obtain a dispensation from the bishop who could allow then this marriage to take place. There would still be some marriage preparation that would happen. The place of the wedding could be in the Catholic Church, or could be in any other appropriate place, any other place that's appropriate for a wedding. Wouldn't necessarily have to be in the Catholic Church, unless you wanted it to be there. But those are the basic things that would have to be looked at. The short answer then to your question is the Church takes this very seriously and would allow it only. Would only allow it by dispensation from the bishop if these certain requirements are met. Does that make sense, Chuck?
That does. That's excellent. Thank you. And then in the ceremony, would it, if it doesn't have to be in a church, and I mean, obviously, and I knew this anyway, there wouldn't have to be a mass, but would it need to be? Would there need to be a priest or a deacon?
There would. Well, you could have a dispensation from the Catholic form of marriage.
Okay.
That's a possibility. However, that's a little bit different question than whether it takes place in the Catholic Church itself. It could be, I actually have a relative who married a non-Christian and got a dispensation from the bishop, and they actually were able to, within the bounds of the law of the Church, marry in a setting that was not a religious setting at all. Just a beautiful setting out in the desert near a golf course that provides a setting for weddings. And that was approved by the bishop. There was actually the Catholic form of marriage was observed, but it was not observed in a Catholic Church itself. So there are options there. I'd encourage you to talk to, if this is you, Rich, that we're talking about, or Chuck, talk to your pastor at your parish or whoever it is who coordinates these things at the parish level, because that's the person who's going to help you figure out what's allowed by your local bishop and what's not, help you get the dispensations that you need, help you do the marriage preparation. Most parishes recommend that you do this at least 6 months before the wedding date is planned. So this is something you want to start kind of early. Even earlier than 6 months is a good idea in a lot of cases. So contact your local parish, talk to your pastor, or just call the parish office and ask them, who should I talk to, so I can bounce these questions off of them, and I'm sure they'll get you headed in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Chuck. Appreciate that call. 888-318-7884 is our number. It's open forum today on Catholic Answers Live. If you've got a question about the Catholic Church or Catholic life, we'd love to take your call, whether you're Catholic or not. 888-31-TRUTH is the number. And Jim Blackburn is our guest, the author of many things, including 101 Quick Questions with Catholic Answers, Marriage, Divorce, and Annulment. That one just came in handy. We'll be right back with Jim right after this.
Catholic Answers Live.
Are faith and science compatible? Join us this September 27th to the 30th as we tackle the topic at Catholic Answers 5th National Apologetics Conference. We've got an all-star lineup of speakers guaranteed to jumpstart your faith, including our very special keynote speaker, Raymond Leo Cardinal Burke. Visit CatholicAnswersConference.com or call 1-888-291-8000 today to register. That's CatholicAnswersConference.com.
Hi, this is Trent Horn, and I'm here to tell you about a very special promotion we look forward to every year, our annual store-wide summer sale in the online shop at Catholic.com. This spectacular online event includes savings of 10 to 25% and more in some cases on every book, tract, CD, DVD, ebook, and MP3 we carry, including my new book, What the Saints Never Said. With lower prices and a great selection, it's by far the best online Catholic sale of the summer. So log on now and all this month to the shop at shop.catholic.com and take advantage of our very special prices. You know it's all good stuff because it's from the people you know and trust at Catholic Answers.
With the 50th anniversary of the release of Humanae Vitae approaching, you can expect fresh attacks on Catholic teaching from outside and, unfortunately, inside the Church. That's why Catholic Answers thought it critical to provide a vigorous affirmation of Paul VI's prophetic wisdom with our newest book, Inseparable: 5 Perspectives on Sex, Life, and Love in Defense of Humanae Vitae. We asked 5 distinguished contributors to reflect on and defend Humanae Vitae from 5 perspectives, each of them compelling, together forming a mosaic of truth. Don't be caught uninformed when the topic comes up among friends, family, and coworkers. Order your copy of Inseparable today by calling 1-888-291-8000 or visiting the shop at Catholic.com.
I'm Tom Price.
And I'm Gloria Purvis. Tomorrow, Father Jordan Schmidt.
And we're talking summer food with Jeff Young. Join us for Morning Glory, 7 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Now, back to Catholic Answers Live.
Jim, you lucky duck. You got to be here for the groovy music. Is that your first time, Jim, or have you heard the groovy music before?
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
It's good. It's kind of surfer type music, isn't it?
It is. It has a little bit of a surfer feel to it. Yes. Would you agree with that, Nick? Nick played on that record, so he recorded that.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, Nick Check and the Dead Century is the band if you want to hear it. But Nick Chamberlain is our sound guy, and he played the drums on that down the hall in Chris Check's office, and we love that music.
Who's playing guitar?
That would probably be one of the Check brothers, right? Yeah, Chris Check has 4 mighty men for sons, and I don't know which of his mighty sons that was. Let's go to. How about we go to another question? Patricia, right here in San Diego's got a question for you, Jim. All right.
Okay.
All right, Patricia, right here in San Diego. We've been having phone trouble, but can you hear us, Patricia?
Yes, I can.
Your question for Jim.
I was wondering what happens when the Eucharist hits the floor and goes to the floor, and is there a procedure done, or do you just pick it up and go on with the Mass?
Okay. So I assume you're talking about the Eucharistic host. And ordinarily what would happen is that would be picked up, but because of the possibility of contamination, it would not be administered then to anyone else. And then at the appropriate time, say after Mass, that would be dissolved and then poured down the sacrarium. The sacrarium is a sink in the church that does not drain to a sewer. It drains down to the ground, under the church, and so that's what would happen with that. There is a procedure for that. I'm sure your parish, your pastor would know about this, and so if it does happen, don't panic. Just pick that up, hold it aside, and then at the appropriate time, let the priest know, and I'm sure he'll just take care of that for you.
You mean if you're the minister, if you're the extraordinary minister?
Yes, I was assuming this would be in the course of administering the Eucharist. Is that what we were talking about here, or Patricia, were you imagining a situation where a communicant has, say, received in the hand and then drops it?
Yes.
Okay. In that situation,
I've seen it hit the floor, but I haven't seen anything like that done.
What I would do is, if you're a communicant and it falls to the floor, say you step to the side and to consume the Eucharist, and you drop it to the floor, then of course you don't want to consume it because of potential contamination. Pick that up and hand it or get the attention of the extraordinary minister or the ordinary minister of the Eucharist, and that person, I'm sure, will take that from you and handle it from there, and then you could go ahead then and receive and consume another Eucharistic host.
Okay, Patricia?
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Pleasure talking with you. 888-318-7884 is our number. Next up is Emily in Chicago watching on YouTube. Thanks for watching on YouTube, Emily. Your question for Jim Blackburn.
Hi, Jim. My name is Emily.
Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hello?
Hi, Emily. Yeah, we can hear you. We have a little delay in the phone, so it makes it a little funny. Plus, either Jim was barking or you have a dog. I don't know which it was. But go ahead, your question for Jim.
I have a dog. Yeah, so, I was raised a Protestant, and I'm considering joining the Catholic Church. One of the things that's hard for me to really understand is the infallibility of the church. So I understand, like, the Peter, the rock, and, Jesus handing over the keys. But I guess my question is, how does new dogma get made that's, like, doesn't cover things in the Bible, and how do we know that that's infallible?
Okay, great question. And this is something that I first of all, let me recommend an article to you that I wrote, just because I get the questions like this from time to time. It's titled "Authority to Teach," and you can find it at Catholic.com. It appeared in Historic Magazine a decade ago, probably. It's an article I wrote just for questions like this. And one of the things that I mentioned in there is that, well, you mentioned Peter receiving the keys, and he, of course, is the first pope. But if we look at what happened a little bit after that, and let's go to John's account of the Last Supper, John tells us that Jesus promised the apostles who were there at the Last Supper, promised them that he would send them the Holy Spirit. He says he will give you a counselor to be with you forever. So this would actually extend beyond the apostles to their successors as well. And he says that the Father will send him the Holy Spirit in my name. He will teach you all things, bring to your remembrance all that I have said to you, and will guide you into all truth. So these verses in John chapter 14 through 16, John's got a very lengthy account of the Last Supper. Take a look at that, and you see this authority, not only this authority, but this promise of the Holy Spirit and the Holy Spirit's guidance for teaching being spelled out here, being promised by Christ. We do see the Holy Spirit then, before Jesus ascends into heaven, he breathes on the apostles and gives them certain authority. At Pentecost, the apostles receive like tongues of fire, the Holy Spirit coming down on them, and they're able to then go and teach all people and with authority. And this is something that then passes on down to their successors, down through the history of the church. I go on in more detail about that in my article on authority to teach. But we see this in Scripture. We also see this in the early church happening even shortly after, or during when the New Testament was being written, but even after the New Testament was written. There's this history where we see this after Peter dies, for example. We see Linus come in as Peter's successor in his office of papacy, and Cletus, and then Clement, and so on, down through the history of the church. And with that passing on of this office came this passing on of authority. Now, you mentioned creating dogma. The church doesn't really create dogma, it doesn't make things up. What happened is what St. Jude in his epistle mentions, calls this the deposit of faith, the faith that was handed once to the church, handed on to the church. That deposit of faith was given to the apostles and has continued to be handed on down through the centuries of the church. The church doesn't add to that, doesn't make up things, but the church does come to understand it better over time. The church teaches based on this deposit of faith that has been handed on to it, but as the church reflects oftentimes on what has been handed on to it, things can become clearer, and the church can go on, and the theology of the church and the teaching of the church can be clarified over time. Now, when we have a situation where this teaching is challenged by others, in particular, since the Protestant Reformation, when we have a challenge among Christians about something, a matter of the faith that the church teaches, this is where we more often will find, at least in the modern church, a definition being given, a dogma of the faith being set down for Christians to believe, to know that this is true, and it's done so with this authority that Christ gave to the apostles and gave to the church. So we need to go all the way back to what happened with Christ, this authority that he passed on to the apostles, and them passing that on, and particularly in St. Peter as his role as the head of the apostles, and in his role of the papacy being handed on. That authority comes from Christ. A dogmatic definition is something that can be pronounced with that authority, but it's oftentimes not done so until a teaching is challenged so greatly that the church must come in and settle the matter definitively for Christians to understand. Does that help, Emily?
Yeah, can I ask a follow-up question?
Absolutely.
So dogmatic definition, is that also something that can never really change, or like, can it be clarified as well?
Well, a dogma is a matter of faith that is the highest level of teaching of the church, and it's something that we can know with certainty is true, because it's been handed on to the church, and the church is taught in such a formal way. Can dogmas go on to be understood better? I suppose the answer to that would be yes, but we would never see a dogma changed in the sense of the church flip-flopping on something that's taught. The church will never say, for example, that, well, we used to teach this dogmatically, now we're going to teach just the opposite. That cannot happen. But the church could say, we teach this definitively, but today some misunderstandings have come up about it from here or there, and we need to clarify it even further. That can happen. This is really called the development of dogma, and there have been there's been a lot written on that. So you might go to Catholic.com, and there's essays on the development of Christian doctrine is what first comes to my mind. Cy, maybe you have some other recommendations for Emily, something to read about the development of doctrine over the history of the church?
The only thing that's coming to mind is John Henry Newman, but that's a 19th century book. I don't know if Emily if that's what she's looking for. There's so much available on doctrine and development of doctrine at Catholic.com. I would suggest you go there as well, Emily. Does that make sense to you?
And there may be a great an easier place to start would be the tract that Catholic Answers has titled "Can Dogma Develop?" It's a very simple tract.
Do you want that tract, Emily?
Sure. Can I just find it on CatholicAnswers.com?
I believe you can, or I can have Marie mail it to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, hang on. Marie will get your address and she'll send it out to you. Thanks, Emily. And if there's any more books that Emily or anyone else wants, guess what, Jim? Practically everything's on sale at the Catholic Answers bookstore, shop.catholic.com. You want me to tell you what's on sale? Are you interested at all?
Please, yes, do.
Almost all of our books, audio, DVDs, digital products, tracks, 10 to 25% off, some cases even more, including your 20 Answers books. All of them on sale. People can get a deal on them right now. Are you excited, Jim Blackburn?
Yeah, that's awesome. Will that affect my royalties? Will my royalties go down because of that?
Yes, there's a big discount on your royalties as well. Yeah, that's actually how we discount it. We just take it straight out of your royalties, Jim. You don't need a promo code. Just shop and save. Hundreds of great things on sale. Shop.catholic.com. Go over there and get those savings today.
Stay with us for more Catholic Answers Live.
Are you a coffee drinker? If so, you can now enjoy a coffee roasted to perfection by the Carmelite monks of Wyoming. Delicious Mystic Monk coffee is roasted and prepared by monks in a hidden cloistered monastery and is available in over 25 varieties. All Mystic Monk coffees are works of perfection and labors of love. For more information on how to purchase Mystic Monk coffee, visit mysticmonkcoffee.com. That's mysticmonkcoffee.com.
EWTN, communicating the faith.
I had to go through fear, and thank God that I overcame the fear, and I just left it up to God, and now there's no more fear, there's just acceptance, and I'm just learning to listen. If you want to be closer to God, you just need to keep following His rules, and your application, your radio station, has helped me to always be positive and continue to listen to the rules and obey.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Call now with your question, 888-318-7884. This is Catholic Answers Live.
Welcome back to Catholic Answers Live. Jim Blackburn is our guest, and our topic, whatever question you have about the life, the faith, the history of the Catholic Church. 888-31-TRUTH, the number. We start now, this final segment with Christina. And Christina, we've been having phone trouble, so I'm checking with everybody. Can you hear us, Christina?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Oh, all right. Your question for Jim.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I'm calling from Emmanuel Radio in Worcester. The question I have is my niece at...
Worcester?
Oh.
Is that near Framingham?
Worcester, Massachusetts, yes.
Yes.
Kind of.
Did you know my mother went to Framingham State College? I know Worcester very well.
No.
Yes. Don't call me a liar, Christina.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. Your question for Jim.
No. The question I have is I was talking to my 12-year-old niece the other day. She doesn't go to church, but she was baptized, and we were discussing what happens to us when we die. She does not believe that we go to a better place or wherever God has destined us to go. She thinks that when we die, that's it. How can I explain to her that there's more? How can I explain it to her that there is something better for us after we die, so that she can understand it better?
Okay, Christina. First, let me ask more specifically what is her religious background, if there is any. Where is she in her?
Well, neither does my sister's children. None of them go to church. None of them practice the faith. But yeah, she just brought this up, and I'm trying to get them to go toward the faith, and I'm trying to explain to her that there is more after we die. I'm trying to get them closer to God. I'm trying to teach them to pray. I'm trying to do because I'm really the only devout one Catholic in the family, and I want to help them. And I just need to know how I can explain this to her. Okay.
Let me throw out a couple of ideas, Christina. But I will mention that the important thing, if you want this to be effective, is to really find out, where she is. Does she believe in God? Does she consider herself a Christian, just not a Catholic? Doesn't think it's necessary to go to church? Where is it that she stands? Because you're really going to need to approach a question like this, meet her where she is and build on that. If we assume that she's fallen away and no longer believes in God at all, then you might have to start really from a philosophical perspective. That we know just by reason alone that we as human beings are different than other living beings. We have intellect that animals and plants don't have. We have free will. We're not just governed by instinct. And these things are an aspect of our being that's not physical. There's something more to us than the physical aspect of our being. And from a philosophical standpoint, you can build on this to explain that aspect of our being is something that, since it's not physical, it can't die. It can't be dissolved into parts. These kinds of things that death is all about. It's something that exists even beyond the death of the being itself, of the human being. And you might just pick up a philosophy book on this, or there are a couple of books that Catholic Answers carries. The one I'm thinking of by Peter Kreeft, A Handbook of Christian Apologetics, or Handbook of Catholic Apologetics. There are both. In there, he takes up, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I've read it, but he takes up from a philosophical perspective this idea of the existence of the human soul, and it's something that's immortal. It survives death, and something happens then after death. But what? What is it? Well, from philosophically, we don't know, but then we need to start building on, has something like this been revealed? Is this how can we know what happens to us afterwards? And of course, that's something that various different religions teach about, and that's something that, of course, Catholicism teaches about. that those who die in God's friendship will live forever with him in heaven, and those who die outside of his friendship then will live forever apart from him. And that's heaven and hell. So, Christina, I think the important thing that I would start with is ask her, well, what do you believe? Where can we start with this? And then build on that. If you start by quoting Bible verses or catechism chapters to her, she might say, I don't believe any of that stuff. You might have to start be much more basic with her on this and start at a level that she's willing to listen to. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Very much. I just, and I have to sit with her alone because she's got a brother and an older sister. So it's something that, I really want her to pay attention to what I'm saying to her. And because I have strong faith, and I want to be able to teach all of them that. It's just unfortunate that they've drifted away from the church. Sure. My sister was she was a very devout Catholic years ago, and now she just drifted away. And I hate seeing this with them. I pray for them all the time, and I just feel bad that they're doing this or going on with their life like this. So I really appreciate the suggestion, and I just hope I can get, to have her understand it better.
Amen. Christina, thanks.
God bless you for your efforts too, Christina, and we should pray for that. I'm sorry, Si, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I just got really excited when Christina called because I love Worcester, Massachusetts. I hope I didn't overdo it, but Christina, maybe I could send you a copy of Why We're Catholic, Trent Horn's book, and at least I don't know if at some point in the conversation it will be helpful for you. If you would like that, if you'd like Trent Horn's book, just hang on and give your address to Marie, and we'll send it to you. I think we got time to take more calls. Let us move on to. Why are you saying that in my ear? Okay, they said go to line 1. Juana in Houston, Texas, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Sorry, Juana, it took me a minute there. I was getting all kinds of directions from different directions. Your question for Jim.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for taking my call. Okay, so my question basically boils down to this. My husband and I were married for 17 years civilly before we decided to get married to the church. Is there a process that could, I guess, recognize those 17 years we were married civilly?
Okay, Juana, when in those 17 years, or when you actually got married civilly, were either of you Catholics at the time?
Yes, both of us.
You were both Catholics, but you married outside the church, just had a civil wedding. And then 17 years later, you had your marriage blessed by the church, or what's called a convalidation. There is
what we actually did was we had an actual ceremony, like mass, and actually went through the preparation process to get married in the church. It was not blessed, like to recognize everything else.
Okay, so it was basically you started fresh, a new wedding, and it was recognized by the church at that point. That's generally still, I'm pretty sure, would have been considered a convalidation, which would take what appeared to be a marriage, at least it's on some level, and was civil marriage, and then would, in the church, make that a wedding, a marriage that the church can bless, and we know is recognized by God and such. That's called a convalidation. There's a simple convalidation, so it can be a much simpler process than probably what you went through. But that generally then recognizes your marriage from that date forward. That doesn't mean that what happened in the 17 years earlier, that wasn't good. There wasn't good to come of it. It's just simply that it wasn't a marriage in the eyes of the church and of God. There may not even have been culpability on your part or your husband's part. The church isn't necessarily even saying that what you were doing was something that you were culpable of sin, but it was something that needed to be fixed, and the church fixed it. There is something called a ratiocination, and that is it's a term that means a healing at the root that would recognize your marriage all the way back to the very beginning, but I don't think that would apply in your case. What you might want to do is contact a canon lawyer or just contact your parish priest or your diocese and ask if that's something that can happen. I doubt that it is. A ratiocination is something that typically takes place when, well, there are lots of circumstances when it can take place, but I don't think your circumstances fit that. But I'm not a canon lawyer, so I don't want to be the last word on that, and I'd encourage you to seek the advice of your pastor or of a canon lawyer in your diocese to really go through this with you and find out. But don't be ashamed necessarily of those first 17 years. Recognize the good that came from them, and you know what? They ultimately led you to be married in the church, and that's a beautiful thing. Your marriage is now sacramental. You're receiving the graces, so it's a beautiful thing what it led to.
Thank you, Juana. Thank you very much for that call. Thanks to everybody who called today. Thanks to all the folks in the control room that we used to call the booth, but we can't anymore. Nick, thank you. Brandon, thank you. Marie, thanks for taking all those book orders. Jim Blackburn, thanks so much for another great hour.
Thank you for having me, Si, and thanks for calling me Jim.
Oh, I was going to close with Jeff, and I forgot to. Doggone it. Okay, all right. Next time I will get you, Blackburn.
All right.
I will get you.
God bless you.
You too, brother. Tomorrow, it's going to be on. It's going to be fun. Why Are You an Atheist with Trent Horn, 2 hours. That's a great way to end a Friday. 2 hours. Why Are You an Atheist? Call then. We'd love to talk with you. Or just listen in. Catholic Answers Live. We'll see you then. God